So I'm deciding to do a quick update on my off-road Suzuki Samurai. I mean, both of them are capable off-road, but this will be the major off-road one. You can do rock crawling and everything. And I just got done putting the front axle under the front of it, the replacement one, and along with some YJ leaf springs out of a Jeep. And in the back, this is how it sat when I got it. And if you look towards the front, that's a lot higher, but it's not as high it will be when I'm done because the rear one, part of the spring, mounted to the body, has been relocated from here to here. You can kind of see in there, it's not mounted to that front bolt, it's about to the back one. To relocate it so that the wheel is centered. Move this out of the way a little bit. Whoops. I'll get that socket tomorrow when I need it. It's kind of centered in the wheel well. And these are only 31-inch tires, so I want to go with 33-inch tires when I'm done. But there'll be plenty of clearance for that. Even after I do what I'm thinking about doing, which I'm pretty sure I will. And that is to take the spring from the top of the axle and the spring perch that's mounted to the axle, move the perch to the bottom of the axle and the spring to the bottom of the axle. This is what they call spring over axle. I'm going to go spring under axle. And then where it comes up to the front here, the normal shackle mounted here, and it was a short one, I went to about here. But to get this, I'm going to have a shackle that goes short enough to where it doesn't cam past and lock up like that, but keeps it upright. And then when this side of the axle droops down, when it's articulating, it has room to drop down and travel even more. And it keeps it a lot more stable on the trail. So that's not a hard thing to deal with, but it's just so high up front compared to out back. And once I do that, it's going to be even higher. So I'm going to go with the spring under the axle, and that should help out a lot with that. Because when I did this before, I did it spring over axle like it is now, but I used Toyota axles, which are wider. The reason why I don't want to go too high is because when you get off camber, you roll easier. It's too tippy. So the Toyota axles being wider helped stabilize that. When you go taller, you go wider to help stabilize your off camber ability. But that's as wide as I want to go with the offset on the rims. You get too far offset and it's just hard on things. But anyway, I also have to deal with the steering problem. I got to replace the steering gearbox because the guy drilled stuff out way too big on this old one. And the steering arm, this is what turns it, and this connects to the other side. But this is what turns it. It's like grabbing a wrench at the bottom of it, trying to break something loose instead of at the top of it to have more leverage. There's no leverage with it in this close to the pivot point. It's like ridiculous. I don't know what the guy was thinking, but he also drilled everything out to these huge heim joints. And so this one's drilled out, I don't know if you could, I got drilled out way too big. So the stock one won't fit anymore. That's why I got to change. And I can't get the pitman arm off of it. I've destroyed stuff trying to do so. So I got a whole new steering gearbox to put in there to fix that, and a stock steering pitman arm that will go onto this that does have a high steer instead of this crap. See how short that is between where it steers it and where it goes across the other wheel? See? This is where it goes across the other wheel, and this is where it steers it. So you can see the difference. You got a lot of leverage here, and on this one, there's next to none. Ridiculous. I don't know what he was thinking. Anyway, And he welded it all in to right on the knuckle. You can't, I'd have to cut it all. It's just not worth it. So for 450 bucks, I got the axle that's under there now. It has chrome ollie shafts that go out to the wheels that make it very tough. It also has a Lockrite locker, giving it better than posi traction. It's like locking the differential so both wheels spin at the same time. But if one has to spin faster than the other, it can, in a ratchet type of way. But anyway, also with that, for that same price, I got this third member that also has a Lockrite locker in it. That would have been 500 bucks alone just for those Lockrite lockers. But in this case, I got the whole front axle and this third member that I will put in the back, which mine's a 95, so the hole pattern is different on the flange. It's bigger. Instead of 12 millimeter, it's 14 millimeter. So I got to change out the flanges on the third members. Easy, no problem. But yeah, it's a heck of a project. But I mean, and I wanted one. I got it. If my arms were in better shape, I'd probably be done by now. But I'm making progress. That's what matters. And also going with springs under the axles. Let me get back over here. Then the shocks won't need to be as long. I could probably use the original shock mount up here when I do that, and not have to put Ford F-250 shock towers that go all the way up to here before they mount, like you do when you go spring over axle. We'll see when I'm done though. If I have to, I have to. Oh, and these spring plates don't have shock mounts on them, so I can't mount. There's no place to mount the lower shock yet, but there will be. I will cut them off of here and weld them on to those, so it'll be okay. I don't know what else to say about it at this moment. Oh yeah, the windshield. When I bought this thing, I didn't realize that that's plexiglass, not glass. It's okay for off-road, but it's not Department of Transportation, DOT, approved. So I got to replace that eventually as well. But as you can tell, I got a lot of work ahead of me before I get there. So I got to get the springs under the axles, and then I got to get the steering arm made, which I have a couple on the other side of the rig over there. Maybe I'll show you real quick. What the heck, we're gone this far. I got this steering axle here. Oh, this one here is for the Toyota axles I got right there. Toyota axles are for another project. But yeah, I don't know if I'll go that far or not. I might put those Toyota axles under this. I don't know yet. I haven't made up my mind. But it's an easy thing to do afterwards. But then it would be spring over axle when I'm done, which is easy enough. But here's my BMW R1200 RT. It's a 2009. And it's a fun ride. But the one thing about BMW motorcycles, they still use the same old clunky transmission they always have. It's not bad. It's reliable. It's just clunky. Other than that, it's a nice smooth ride with a low center of gravity because the engine is very low, being a pancake engine. Flat 4. So it's a real nice ride. I love that thing. Anyway, oh, and one more thing. I did get the new seats installed, and I had to make my own brackets, but they were good, and they have a captain's chairs armrests. You'll never use this inside one, or outside one as it were, but this one here and this one, kind of like airline seating, you're gonna kind of fight for elbow room, but not over the same one. There's an imaginary line drawn there. Oh, it looks bent. Ugh. Oops. Oh, that's better. Anyway, there we go. And I got to get new panels for the inner doors. This one doesn't even have one. But this is a 94, and it's fuel injected, which is great because you can get at weird angles and it runs fine. Sometimes with the carburetor ones, like my 87, you get too much of an angle and it wants to flood or wants to... The float bowl doesn't fill up or it fills up too much. So there's a fix for that, but it's kind of difficult to deal with. That's why I wanted to make this one the off-roader, because I can get it, it'll run upside down until the oil gets too much into the intake and hydrolocks your engine. But that's a bit winded for now, I guess. I don't know what else to say at the moment. I got some work to do. Oh, I gotta straighten this out so I can get the AC. Then it does have air conditioning, so it's not working. I mean, it acts like it's working, but nothing cold comes out. But there's supposed to be a fan in here. There ain't even room for one because they bent it. I guess it got in an accident. So I'm gonna have to fix that too. You know, one thing at a time. What's that saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This is my elephant, folks. Yeah. That's my elephant. Yeah, that's too high up front, and it ain't even as high as it would be when I'm done versus the back. I don't like being tippy. I'd rather high center than be tippy. All right, happy Thanksgiving, y'all, in 2024. And we'll see you in the next post.